Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Sydney from PhoneDog.com, and welcome to PhoneDog Live, our weekly podcast broadcast live on Ustream, and you can watch the recording of it on YouTube. If you're watching the recording of this, then this is like a normal show to you, but to our live viewers, it's a little bit different. If you watch the show live, then you know we kind of had some technical difficulties, and a couple of minutes into the show, everything basically just cut off, and it took me about 10 minutes to kind of figure out what was going on. So we just decided to restart, and so for the guys watching live, it's like deja vu, like Omar said in the comment in Ustream, but in the chat. But if you're watching on YouTube, it'll like you don't even know what happened. It's like a new show, and so thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. If you're watching on YouTube, check out the timeline in the description below the video, because you can skip around and you don't have to listen to all of this. You can just skip to whatever topic you wanna listen to or you wanna watch. So we have a lot to talk about, and honestly, this does feel like deja vu because I've said like so much of this already. But anyway, we're gonna keep going. So we're gonna start with the Samsung Galaxy S3 because May 3rd is the event, the announcement date where we will probably see the Galaxy S3, and it's coming up soon. And so I thought it'd be kind of nice to just round everything out and kind of get all the rumors together and settled, and then see. You know, some people are kind of disappointed now that things have kind of mellowed out and we're kind of getting a better idea of what the phone will actually be like. You know, originally we had heard so many crazy things. I mean, the original rumors were out of this world. We were hearing a 4.8-inch 1080p Super AMOLED Plus HD 16:9 display was going to be like the most amazing display ever. Quad-core processor, a 12 megapixel camera. It was like we were hearing just crazy specs. And at the time, it seemed perfectly reasonable because the phone was like 6 months away. And so we were like, well, who knows? Maybe by then we'll have 1080p displays. And so we were like, yeah, 1080p display. And so now that we're here and we know, what technology we have, we kind of have a better idea of what the phone is going to be like. Probably not a 1080p display, probably more like a 720p display, which is not bad. I mean, if you think about the what the eye can discern in terms of pixels and clarity, you really 1280 by 720, that's pretty much the best resolution you can get to. I mean, a 1080p display would kind of be overkill because you wouldn't even really your eyes wouldn't even be able to tell the difference between 1080p and 720p. I mean, not enough really. So, but we're hearing probably 1280 by 720, Super AMOLED, not Super AMOLED Plus, which I think is surprising. I've mentioned this before, I think, during the show. I honestly thought I'd have a Super AMOLED Plus display. I thought that was kind of like a given, I mean, when the Samsung Galaxy Nexus debuted with only a Super AMOLED display, it was surprising because it was like, wait a minute, this is Google's flagship phone, and you have, several other devices with a Super AMOLED Plus display, and then this one, Super AMOLED, it was kind of confusing, and so I was like, surely the Galaxy S3, it'll definitely be Super AMOLED Plus, but it's not. I mean, so far as we're hearing, it's Super AMOLED, and I don't know if that's something with technology or battery that I'm just missing or that I don't know about, but it kind of surprised me. As far as the display size, like I said, we first heard that it would have a 4.8-inch display, which is that's kind of large for a phone screen. I think probably the largest. Well, we have the Titan 2, which has a 4.7-inch display. The Titan also has a 4.7-inch display. Then you have the Galaxy Nexus 4.65-inch display. But I really think that's kind of the size threshold. Once you go beyond that, then you're getting into like Galaxy Note territory, and that's a very specialized device. A certain group of people is going to like that. So now, kind of the rumors that we're hearing now are 4.6-inch or 4.7-inch display. I think that's more realistic, somewhere in there, not quite the 4.8-inch that we were hearing earlier. One thing that did hold true quad-core processor. We're hearing that it will still have a quad-core processor. And this one isn't too surprising. I mean, even at the time when we originally heard those crazy, rumors that it was going to have, a 1080p display and a quad-core processor, we weren't really, it was kind of like, okay, 1080p, I don't know if we're going to be able to have that kind of technology, but we did know that quad-core processors were going to start showing up in phones. We'd already heard about them showing up in tablets, and we were kind of hearing like the tips of rumors of those processors showing up in phones. And so that one wasn't too far-fetched, and it's proven to be it was proven to be a true rumor, at least as far as we know. But the disappointing thing is just all of this. Everything is scaled back. It's no longer a 1080p display, it's a 720p display. It's no longer Super AMOLED Plus, it's just Super AMOLED. It's going to have a quad-core processor, but in the US, it's probably going to be a dual-core processor. And so, it's kind of just, it's not just one area, it's like every area, things have been scaled down. And so, the question that a lot of people are asking is, are you disappointed? I mean, do I still want the Galaxy S3? I mean, it's going to be a great phone, but, is it going to be able to live up to all of the hype? And, of course, the easy answer is no. I mean, no phone lives up to all of the hype. I mean, if you think about it and you go all the way back to the iPhone 4 or the Galaxy S2, all of these really hyped up products, at the time, they seemed extremely disappointing because of all of the hype that you'd heard, and none of that really came true, so you're like, oh, that's stupid. But, when you look back, you're like, you know what? The iPhone 4 was actually a pretty awesome phone. The Galaxy S2, that was actually a pretty awesome phone. So, when it comes out, it may be kind of, not as amazing as we were expecting, but it's still going to be a great phone. For example, this, talking about the US versions, I mean, obviously in Europe, you're going to have a quad-core processor, and it's going to be great. But in the US, it's going to be a dual-core processor simply because, it has to be compatible with, LTE technology. And so, for the time being, the only ones that are Qualcomm's dual-core, or, Qualcomm's Snapdragon processors, at least, the ones that they're going to use. And so that's kind of, you're like, well, that's kind of a buzzkill, because, I mean, one of the only reasons why we wanted this phone is because it's a quad-core processor, and now it's dual-core. But really, we talk about this, it's a Qualcomm Snapdragon S4 processor, and this S4 processor is really it's nothing to hate on. I mean, it is a beast processor, and you talk to other bloggers and you see some of these speed tests that Qualcomm has set up. It can go head to head with a quad-core processor. It can go toe-to-toe and hold its own. There may be some areas where if you really push it, you're going to notice some difference. But really, it's nothing shabby. It's nothing to complain about. It's still going to be an awesome, an awesome phone. But I think it was the expectations. It was like, we thought it was going to have this and this and this, and now it's, take that down and take this down and take this down. So it's kind of like the overall shock of it is disappointing, but really, it's still going to be an awesome phone. 1280 by 720 Super AMOLED display. That's going to be an amazing display. Like I said, the dual-core S4 processor is still going to be great. We're hearing an 8-megapixel camera. Originally, it was a 12-megapixel camera. And a lot of that, the camera, we talk about this, people get really wrapped up in the megapixel count, and it's not so much about that as it is about the optics and just the quality, the lens quality, and overall everything that goes into the camera. It's not just about megapixel count. And and you can see that in some of these kind of like low-end, inexpensive devices that ship with like 5-megapixel cameras that capture 720p HD video. And it sounds great, but when you use it, you can tell it's cheaper parts. The optics aren't as good. And so, compared to like something like the Galaxy S2 had an 8-megapixel camera, but compared to like a high-end phone that has a 5-megapixel camera, you're like, there's totally different, even though megapixel count is the same. So, really, whether it's a 12-megapixel camera or an 8-megapixel camera, as long as the optics are great, Samsung puts a lot of work into it, I think we can expect a good camera. And we may not know what the specs are right now, but I think whatever they are, I think we can expect a great camera. And so this is it's kind of disappointing, but once you think about it, you kind of realize, what, it's going to be an awesome phone. Coming May 3rd and in London, and so that's going to be exciting. I'm excited about it. I don't know if I'm going to get it just because we don't really know when it's going to hit the States. By the way, if you're on Verizon and you're wondering, is Verizon going to get the Galaxy S3? We're hearing that it will. And this is awesome because, Verizon didn't get a version of the Galaxy S2, and a lot of Verizon customers were disappointed by that because, they wanted the Galaxy S2. And, a lot of people reasoned, well, they're getting the Galaxy Nexus, and so, you don't really need the Galaxy S2, which was kind of true. But, the Galaxy S2 is actually better than the Galaxy Nexus in a lot of ways. I personally think that the camera was better. There was just, if you like TouchWiz, that's something that it has. Obviously, the Galaxy Nexus shipped with Android 4.0, but, it's just kind of disappointing to some Verizon customers. So, but we are hearing that Verizon will get the Galaxy S3. Now, this is a rumor. It's from Boy Genius Report, which is not, they've been right about some things, but they're kind of shady on some other things, and so I'm not entirely sure if this is actually going to happen, but so far that's what we're hearing right now. But no, yeah, I mean, I'm excited. Like I said, I don't know if I'm going to get it, but I love TouchWiz, and I've loved TouchWiz ever since the first version of it. I don't know why, just something about the colors and the shapes and the design, something about it just really captured me. And it's funny because, early versions of TouchWiz they looked a lot like iOS in some areas. Not like in every area, but it was like, the app drawer kind of resembled iOS, the icons, just the colors and the designs of the icons were very, very similar to iOS. But it's funny because I can't stand iOS. I mean, I think it's great and it runs very smoothly, and I don't think it's like awful. I mean, someone's gonna love it, and I think that's great. But just like personally, the design of it doesn't really appeal to me. But I love TouchWiz, and so it was one of those like strange paradoxes that I never really figured out. But in recent versions, TouchWiz has gotten a lot more refined and kind of gone away from the colors and the cartoonish sort of design, and so but I still love it, even though it's changed so much. But May 3rd, that will be exciting, and I assume somebody will be there. I don't know, Aaron or Taylor covering that event. If not, we're going to keep you guys updated, obviously. So that's the Galaxy S3, and you should not be disappointed. If you're wondering, now that the Galaxy S3 now that the US version is not going to have a quad-core processor, now that it's not going to have a 1080p display, if you're wondering, should I go with something else? No, I mean, it's still going to be a great phone. If you want the Galaxy S3, go for it. It's still going to be an awesome phone. Will it be the best phone out there? I don't know. I mean, we have like the HTC One X, which I just don't think it can be beat. We still have the iPhone 4S, which is still a great phone. I think the Galaxy S3 will be better than the iPhone 4S. Will it be the best phone? Maybe not, but it will definitely be top 3, easy, I think. But it's just, it seemed like with the Galaxy S, it was like easily one of the best, best phone, bottom line. Galaxy S2, similar, just one of the best phones. Galaxy S3, I think it's going to be on par with a lot of other high-end phones, but it's still going to be a top 3 phone. And so we'll see that when it comes out. I'm all thrown off in terms of timing right now because like I explained earlier, we got started on time, but because connection issues, so we got started late the second time, so now it's like I have no idea how long I've spent like on any topic. But anyway, we're gonna move on to Google Drive, which was officially announced after, 20 years that it was in development? It was a long time. It seems like a long time. Not really 20 years, but it's been a long time. I remember whenever Apple's iCloud was announced, and that seemed like forever ago. and whenever we started hearing rumors of that, that's when we started hearing rumors about Google Drive. And so, like, it seemed like ages ago that iCloud was announced, and now we're just now hearing about Google Drive. And true story, absolutely true story. I thought Google Drive was like a turn-by-turn navigation integrated into Android type thing. I don't know. And like, which is dumb because, I've been following, I work in the mobile industry. I've been following this story ever since it started. And so like, I clearly knew about this, but it's just, we hadn't heard about it in so long. It was just like rumor after rumor after rumor, and then things kind of like died off after 6 months, and then like bam, it's official. And so I kind of just like forgotten about it, and it was like, Google Drive, don't they already have turn-by-turn navigation? It was definitely not one of my proudest moments. But anyway, I figured it out pretty quickly. So Google Drive is basically like Dropbox and SkyDrive and, iCloud and everything else out there. There's not really a whole lot of differences. It replaces Google Docs. Because it replaces it, but Google Docs is basically integrated into it. So it does replace it, but you still have Google Docs. It's just now with a new name. When you sign up, you get 5 gigabytes of storage for free. You can upgrade to 25 gigabytes for $250 a month, which is not bad. You can get 100 gigabytes for $5 a month and 1 terabyte for $50 a month. Which is a little bit more, but for 1 terabyte, that's pretty. I mean, all these prices are pretty good. They are a little bit more expensive. I think Google raised the prices a little bit from what they were before Google Drive was official, but still, 5 gigabytes for free. And it works well. I mean, there's a Mac application, there's a Windows application, there's obviously an Android application. There is no iOS app just yet. It's coming soon. I'm not entirely sure why Google didn't get around to creating an iOS app. I mean, it wasn't like, they didn't think they would need one. I mean, like, it's been they've been working on this for like, a couple of years probably. If you think about, when we started hearing rumors, and then they'd probably been working on it before that. I mean, it's been like a year, and they haven't, designed an iOS app. I don't know. I have no idea what they were thinking, but... So that will be coming soon, but for now you can still use it on your Mac at least. And it's very simple. It's a lot like using Google Docs, and there's not really a whole lot of differences. The main difference is that it's not just documents. That's pretty much what you're going to notice. You can do pictures, PDFs, pretty much anything that you want to store. Any media that you want to store in the cloud, you can upload it and you can share it, and so you can use it to collaborate. So if you at work you need to work on a presentation or a document or something, you can share it with different people, and then everyone can like make changes or kind of add their input, and it will automatically as it syncs, it will automatically update your version of the document. And that's kind of like collaboration, except you don't have to be in one room, but it's still kind of the same idea, which is kind of nice and not completely groundbreaking, but still a nice feature. And overall, very well designed. There's not a whole lot to complain about. It's simple. Whenever you download it to your computer, it works pretty much like Dropbox. There's a folder that's automatically created in your Finder if you're on Mac, or if you're looking at your computer folders if you're on Windows. It's a folder, and you just drag whatever you want into the folder, and it automatically updates and syncs. So it's very simple. The only kind of like sort of downside, and I'm assuming, I don't know if this is ever going to be fixed, or if like maybe I'm missing, maybe there's a workaround to this, but when you're in the web app and you're looking at the documents, and say it's like a Word document, and you have Word, you're on a PC, and you have Word, and so you're like, all right, I'm going to open that up and make some changes in Word. It won't actually open in that program. It'll open it in the web, and which seems kind of like, I mean, yeah, okay, this is Google, and so they want you to use Google products. They want you to use the web because you think about Chromebooks. the whole idea is to be able to do everything on the web. And so you're like, okay, I get it, Google. You want me to do everything on the web. But I have Microsoft Word. I mean, why don't you let me open this in Microsoft? Or if it's a picture, if you open a picture, it won't ask you, do you want to open this in Photoshop or in Preview or in what? It just opens it in the web. And, you're like, okay, can I just open this? It's in that way, it doesn't really work with you. But from what I can tell, and unless I'm wrong about this, if it's like a document that you've uploaded from your computer and you're on your computer and you want to take that document from the cloud, it will open it in that app. But I think that might just be because like you're the one that uploaded it, so it obviously knows that it can use this program. So I'm still kind of like messing around with it and trying to figure out like, why is this really how this works? You're only going to let me open it in the web? I mean, that seems, yeah, simple and easy, but what if I want to actually do something here? It's kind of backwards. And honestly, it gave me a very sort of like not Google feeling. It reminded me a lot of something that Apple would do, because for example, opening a picture automatically in the web or opening a document automatically in the web instead of like whatever app I want. That's so an Apple thing. I mean, because with Apple, there's iPhoto. So, if you import photos, you open a photo or it's like automatically iPhoto and you're like, actually, I wanted to use this other app. Or if you're using iMovie and you want to just like quickly import a picture or something, like you can like drag and drop, but really it's iPhoto. You have to use iPhoto. And that's a very Apple thing. Like, okay, you have to use this program and this program. If you want to do this, you got to use this program. And it works because Apple products, their software, they make very well-designed software. And so I'm like, okay, whatever. But that's not a Google thing. And so I was surprised that it made me like, you have to open it in the web. And I'm just like, I don't want to open it in the web. But anyway, I went on like a 10-minute rant about that. But overall, it's great. It really is great. There's not a whole lot to complain about. And, it's simple. It's like, really, that's the one main problem. And even that's not a big deal. So, it's Google Docs. You can have, now more than just documents in the cloud. And, great prices too. I mean, I think getting 5 gigabytes for free, I mean, I think that's pretty good. Are we still good? We're still live? Okay, I just saw somebody in the chat talking about how they were having connection issues, so hopefully... Okay. So, that's Google Docs, or Google Drive. Google Drive. There's two more things that I really want to talk about. One of them is the original Google phone concepts that were leaked, not leaked, but this whole Google versus Oracle legal battle is all, it's very interesting and big. It's a huge deal. But the more fun thing is like, because all of these proceedings, there's a lot of inside information that we didn't know about that's getting leaked because it's part of the trial. And so one of the things is early photos photos of early prototypes of the Google phone or the G phone or the early Android phone. And it's totally interesting. And I have no idea what this has to do with the case because honestly I didn't read that far into what exactly was going on. I just read the article. And but here's a picture of the original Google phone, one of the early concepts. And as you can see, it looks basically like a BlackBerry. I mean obviously the colors and the design are different, but the form factor is like a BlackBerry. Extremely thick, as you can see. It's like, that's got to be like at least half an inch, 0.6, 0.7 inches thick. And then as far as we can tell, no touchscreen, just, the screen up there and then the keyboard and then some soft keys. It's not a great looking phone, and I'm totally glad that they did not, release this as, the first Android phone, but it's just fun to see like, wow, this is where they started. This is, they sat down and they said, let's design a phone, and this is what they came up with. It's kind of, fascinating to kind of see the early development of Android. And speaking of Android, we also got to see some early pictures of what Android looked like. You can see, and it's not a great photo, but you can kind of get an idea of what was going on here. Again, no touchscreen, so this was all going to be done with some soft keys or something. Just but kind of interesting. You can see the clock. Obviously, it was going to have deep Google integration. You can see the search bar there. But it's just kind of fascinating to see how Google, the early design and concepts of Android. Here's an interesting thing. The documents don't mention the specs for this device, but it does say that the lowest end devices were to feature at least a QVGA display, a 200 megahertz processor, 64 megabytes of ROM and RAM each, mini SD card, and a 2 megapixel camera with a dedicated shutter key and a pair of soft menu keys. So, obviously it was at least a 200 megahertz processor, so, probably better. But, gosh, I can't imagine a phone with a 200 megahertz. Of course, it used to be enough. I mean, in some feature phones, that's totally enough. But, today we have, 1 gigahertz dual core and quad core processors. And so it's just back then to look at, how far we've come with technology. Very, very interesting. And here's another interesting note about this. Google was actually interested in subsidizing a data plan for T-Mobile back in 2006 whenever, this whole Android was, before it came to the market. And what they were going to do is that they were going to offer T-Mobile users an unlimited data plan for $10 a month, which is freaking awesome. Now, obviously that did not work out, but that was Google's plan. You can offer unlimited data for $10 a month. But here's why. This is why they were willing to do that, why they were willing to offer unlimited data, because Google estimated that its services would use up about 15 megabytes per month of data, which is pretty crazy. I mean, we have 2 gig plans today, and people have unlimited plans where they use 5 gigabytes of data. If you're tethering, a minimum is 250 megabytes. That's the smallest plan you can possibly get. And they figured with an unlimited data plan, all the data you want, 15 megs, boom. And it's just it seems crazy. But back then we didn't have apps, and so if you had a smartphone, you're gonna use it for internet, email. We didn't have Twitter, so maybe Facebook or MySpace, but without apps, without an app store, it's what are you going to use it for? And so 15, that might have been enough, but just it's fun just to see how far we've come with technology. And what are we going to have next year? I remember 6 months ago, maybe not even 6 months, maybe 3 months ago, 3 or 4 months, people asking me, do you think we'll see quad core processors in phones in a couple, in 4 or 6 months? And I said, yeah. And, it sounded crazy, but I was like, you know what? Technology is moving pretty quickly. That's going to be a crazy time. But you know what? We might see quad core processors in phones. And now it's here. We have a quad core processor in a phone. And it's, and I remember back when, when the HD2 came out, the HTC HD2, that was aside from shipping with Windows Mobile, it had a 1 gigahertz Snapdragon processor, a gig of RAM. It was and it was just the end all and be all of phones. 1 gigahertz Snapdragon processor. It was and now 1 gigahertz is I can get a phone for free with that. It's just, it's exciting. I kind of wonder, what we're going to have next. Speaking of next and awesome phones, I got the HTC One S yesterday. It's for review, by the way. It's not. I didn't buy it. It's not my personal phone, but I am going to be using it as my personal phone because I'm going to be doing a review on it. This is not the T-Mobile version. Let me get the camera up just so I can make sure everything's getting on the screen. So it's not the T-Mobile version, it's the international unlocked version. We have a video review up if you want to watch it, but I'm going to be doing a written review, and which is kind of fun to get a different perspective on it because at least I think it's fun whenever we have one editor do a video review and then another editor do a written review. I think it kind of gives you like two different perspectives. And so I'm going to be working on that. And I think I have to have that done tomorrow, actually. I just remembered. So I guess I better get working on that one. So, but it's been, it's definitely a nice phone. The first thing that I noticed is that it is extremely thin, like super. I don't know if you can tell, how thin this phone is. It's like, it's razor thin. And I knew it was thin because I've seen the measurements, I've seen the specs, I've seen videos. It's thin. That's what I'd heard. But you don't really know how thin it is until you hold it and it feels razor thin. Now, the downside to that is that you don't get a removable battery. And so it's all just in there. This part comes off and you can put in your SIM card. It's a micro SIM, but you don't get a removable battery. But, still extremely thin. And then the second thing I noticed was the display, which is a pretty impressive display. It hasn't blown me away yet, and maybe I've just been spoiled. Maybe we just get spoiled by these, great, amazing displays. But still, it's very, very clear, very bright, just very crisp. I can see pixels, but still, it's a great display. And but there's one thing that I'm still kind of getting used to. And the thing is, Android 4.0 with Sense 4 with apps that are not designed for Android 4.0, which creates a very inconsistent experience. And this is not something that I expected, even though I had heard other users and other bloggers talk about it. I didn't really think it would be like that big of a deal, but it kind of is. And it's not so much that it's like Android's fault. Is a lot of it is kind of just me because I'm still getting used to Android. For example, I am totally lost without the menu button. I just am. And see, this is where the problem comes in with apps that are not designed for Android 4.0. With apps that are designed for Android 4.0, you have, let me see if I can get an example and cover up the phone number. So you have, actually, no, you don't have it right there. Yeah, okay, so here we go. You have the three dots, and you can see the three dots, and that's how you get to, that's basically the menu. That's how you get to the menu. But, I'm used to having the menu button like down here and just kind of pressing it. And so for apps that are designed for Android 4.0, they have the three dots, and it's like great. I just have to remember to look for it because, that's what it is. But for apps that are not designed for Android 4.0 or just parts of the software that kind of seem like unfinished, it's kind of difficult to figure out, okay, how did they make this work? Since it's not designed for Android 4.0 and it's designed for a phone that has a menu button, okay, how did they make this work? Where is the menu? How do I get to it? It's kind of just like, every time you use another app, you're like, okay, how did they make this work? And I constantly have to kind of figure that out. I'm sure that's something that after a while I will get used to, and I'll just kind of, learn how things are done. But it is kind of a learning curve, and it's kind of inconsistent, just because of that. You have a completely new OS almost. You have a completely new UI, and then you have apps that are not designed for that OS or that UI, and so it's sort of this jumbled. Sometimes it's kind of confusing, but it's just a learning curve. I'm still kind of getting used to it, but that's probably the biggest thing that I've noticed. Overall, Android 4.0 with Sense 4, you don't really see a lot of Android 4.0. Aside from not having the menu button, Sense is so heavy that it's like it really just looks like Sense, like on every other phone. However, if you really, follow Android closely and you love it and you watch all the videos, then you can kind of notice like some remnants of 4.0, just kind of in the shading of certain text boxes, just some of the lines, and you'll notice like, okay, this is this is Android 4.0. This isn't Android 2.3. It's kind of just some of the subtle things that HTC has left in. But for the average user, I don't think they would notice, which is probably a good thing because, if you use stock, ice cream sandwich and stock gingerbread, it looks like a completely different OS, except for, you still have widgets and icons, but it still looks extremely different. And, for the average consumer that, knows nothing about phones and is just, going in to buy a phone, it might be like kind of confusing, or if they're upgrading, it might be kind of confusing. So, it's probably nice for those kind of people, to have a phone with a UI that simplifies it and makes it more, closer to what they're comfortable with. I'm using folders a lot more than I thought I would, and this is a new feature with Android 4.0. You can have folders, which I never really liked. I thought it would kind of look like cluttered, and I don't really like folders and all that. But actually, as soon as I turned on the phone and got everything set up and started downloading the apps I always download, it was almost like second nature. I immediately started putting things in folders because it seemed to make sense to me. Like, these are the same. Let me just put them in a folder. And so I was surprised. I actually used that feature more than I thought I would. Do you guys have any questions? I just realized, if you have any questions about the One S or about Sense 4 or Android 4.0, you can ask. And because I've used it ever since yesterday, and it was more of a learning curve than any other phone I've reviewed. Most of the time, I can take a phone out of a box, turn it on, log into my accounts, get the apps, boom, I'm done, I'm ready to review it. But with this, it's a new OS, it's a new UI, it's new everything, and I literally had to watch videos and be like, okay, how is this done now that everything is different? And I swear, I felt like an idiot just because it took me so long to figure this out. In the gallery, so I got a picture and I was trying to figure out how to do stuff with it, edit or upload it. And so we'll take this picture, for example, which is my background. And so I was like, okay, so there's no menu button. How do I do this? And I swear I tapped on the screen. And nothing happened. Now that I tap on the screen, the stuff actually comes up and you can see it. You can, share, delete, edit, and more. But I swear I did that and nothing happened. And to me, it's just so, I'm thinking it'd be so much easier to just have a menu button instead of, how am I going to know to tap the screen? I mean, that's so not what I'm used to. And so it took me forever to figure it out. And that's, a perfect example of just one of the learning curves, because to me, Android, anytime I want to do something extra that's not already on the screen, menu button, boom, it's all there. And so learning, okay, what do I do? Oh, I tap the screen. It just took me a while. Does it lag at all? No, it doesn't. I haven't noticed any lag whatsoever. I did a quick quadrant standard test, just, out of the box, just to see what to expect. It got something like a 4,500 or 4,700. Is that right? I think it was. I'm gonna run another one really quick. But no, I haven't noticed any lag at all. It does pretty good. One thing that I'm really picky about is when I pinch to zoom in the web browser, I want the text to render onto the new screen and the new size immediately. I mean, it doesn't have to be immediate, but it has to be within a couple of seconds. That's one thing I'm really picky about, and it's one thing that Windows Phone does not do very well at all. But with the One S, it's great. I can zoom in, and it takes like a second or two, but it responds very well. So lag hasn't really been a problem. Let me see. How is battery life? I have not been able to test battery life, so I have no idea. Camera. The camera, I've taken a couple of pictures, but I haven't looked at them on anything besides the phone. And I like to look at them on a computer screen or on other devices, because obviously when you have a phone with an amazing display, obviously the picture is going to look great. But I want to be able to look at it on a computer and kind of zoom in and examine a little bit and compare it to other phone cameras. So the pictures that I've taken, they do look great, and it's very clear. It's like instant shutter. I press the button and it's like instant, which is very awesome. But I don't have a lot of details on the quality compared to other cameras. So quadrant standard results, we've got, it's loading. So let me answer another question. Do you think the 4.3 inch screen is better than the 4.7 inch screen on the One X? The size, not resolution. Well, in terms of size, that's totally personal. I can't say. It just depends on what you like, the size of your hands, really just that kind of stuff. It's not, okay, so here's a quadrant. 4,674 is a quadrant standard results. And you can see compared to everything else, it pretty much blows it out of the water. Yeah, the 4.3 inch display, it's a good size. I haven't thought, I wish this display was bigger. I haven't thought that at all. I will say that it's more narrow than wide. A lot of like Samsung devices, they go for a more wide display. This one's definitely more narrow, so it seems longer than it really is. But size, yeah, that's just, depends on what you prefer. I know you guys weren't talking about audio, but since I saw audio, it does have Beats audio, and I originally thought that the Beats technology only worked with the built-in music player, the native music player, but I use Slacker Radio, and it also works with that too. So I don't know if I read that wrong or if I just remembered it wrong, but if you've heard that, the Beats audio does also work with other apps like Slacker, and then you can use the native music player. The audio sounds great. With the Beats audio, I did notice the difference between between that and just using another phone to listen to music. It was like immediate as soon as I turned it on, and maybe it's just because I was listening to a great song, I don't know, but immediately it just sounded more full, more rich, more like wow, I want to jam to this song. So the Beats audio seems to be pretty great. And one thing about Sense that I'm glad they've done, you can resize widgets, and this might be a Sense 4 thing, it might be an Android 4.0 thing. You can do that in Android 4.0, so I don't know if HTC just decided to add that to the UI or if it was like a mandatory thing. But you can resize widgets, so for example, I have this widget, and you can see when I long press, the arrows come up so I can resize it. That I really like, because HTC's widgets are huge and clunky, and so I really like them. They look great, but they take up the entire page, and I want to put other stuff on that page. I don't want to have, 5 pages with one widget each, and so it's nice that you can resize them. So you can see I've done that with the Twitter widget. You can see here I have, let me make sure this is on screen. You can see I have an email widget, and then my favorite contacts widget, this is just a demo unit. I have a special demo Gmail account that I use for phones. So anyway, so you can resize the widgets, and I think that's really nice. They're still kind of clunky. They are still big. Even the smallest they go, I think this is the smallest each one of these widgets will go, and they still take up half the screen. So I mean, they're still kind of big, but it's better than it was. Okay, so that's the HTC One S, and I'm going to be doing a written review, so you guys can keep your eyes open for that. And I kind of just wanted to talk about it and share my initial impressions, and then I might carry this as my personal phone, since I usually carry an Android phone with me. I use Windows Phone, you guys know that. It's just my OS of choice, but I also carry an Android phone, just because there's some things that Android does great and better than Windows Phone, and sometimes I just like to change it up a bit. So when I'm done with the review, I might continue to carry it as my personal phone. I don't know, but let's see. Speaking of T-Mobile, Samsung, the Galaxy Note may make its way to T-Mobile, and it's pretty sure. I mean, it's not official yet, but we have a couple of rumors that really seem to confirm this. First of all, we saw some model numbers that seem to coincide with at least a Samsung product on T-Mobile. The model number was SGHT 879. Okay, I just totally blanked out on how to read numbers. But anyway, and so that model number, if you look at past records, it says that it's going to be a Samsung device on T-Mobile, and then the Bluetooth, the Wi-Fi Alliance says that this is a phone. And so we know it's Samsung, we know it's T-Mobile, and we know it's a phone. So we had that first of all. And then later on, we got some screenshots that were supposedly from a T-Mobile Galaxy Note test unit, and it shows this same model number, SGH T879, and it looked like the Galaxy Note, and so that seemed to kind of confirm it that and it had the T-Mobile logo on the top of the phone. And then later on, we got another picture of the Galaxy Note with Android 4.0. And so it seems now kind of, pretty much surefire that we're going to see the Galaxy Note on T-Mobile. We don't know when, we don't know how much it's going to be, but, pretty soon, if we're already seeing these demo phones and there's already pictures of them, then really there's not really a whole lot else to do, because it's not like it's a brand new device. I mean, sometimes when we see leaked images of a phone that just hasn't been released yet, it may be like a couple of months or even like 6 months, like 4 months before it's actually released. But the Galaxy Note is already out, and so they don't have to design it or finalize any software or hardware things. Like, it's already done. They really just need to change a couple of the hardware components. And so now that we're already seeing it, my guess is that it's going to be coming pretty soon, but we'll have to wait and see for that. And that's the news. That's what I wanted to talk about. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, I apologize for the technical difficulties, but if you're on YouTube, you don't care because you have no idea what happened. And so we'll move on now to the open Q&A. And we'll try to keep this to 15 minutes, even though, like I said, I'm totally thrown off in terms of time, and because I can't remember what time we got started for the second time. But anyway, we'll move on to the open Q&A. And so if you have any questions, ask them. I'll try my best to answer as many as I can. I am on Ustream. I am also on Facebook. If you are on YouTube, you can also leave a comment there. I read those, and so I'll try to answer some of them if I can, but for the time being, we'll do the live Q&A. Sorry, I just have to get everything with Facebook and everything set up. Okay, so Sydney, why was the 1V produced by HTC? Last year's models have better specs than the 1V, like the Rime, Inspire, MyTouch 4G, Thunderbolt, etc. They all have more RAM. Well, the 1V is a low-end phone, I guess you could say. 1 gigahertz processor, 5 megapixel camera, 512 megabytes of RAM. I mean, it's kind of a low-end phone. Whereas phones like the Rime, the MyTouch 4G, the Thunderbolt, those were high-end phones. And so, they just have different grades of phones, and HTC wanted to make a low-end phone. Sydney, have you ever dyed your hair before? I have not. No. V has image ship and ice. Yes, the 1V does ship with ice cream sandwich out of the box, and Sense 4. Haircut. Yes, I got a haircut. Yeah, how do you like it? It's really short. Okay, sorry. Everything's backwards, and so I was messing with it, and I realized I'm on the wrong side. I've been wanting to do it for, about a year. I just every time I saw a girl with a pixie cut, I thought it looked really cute, and so I was like, I want to try that. And so I decided to try it. And it's really short, but I'm getting used to it. Some days I really like it, some days I hate it. It just depends. You look younger. like 10 years younger. Okay, that's weird because a lot of people said it makes me look older, which is actually good because a lot of people think that I look like well, a lot of people think I'm 16 or 17, but I'm actually 24. And so when to make me look older, that's actually a good thing, but make me look younger, that's now they're going to think I'm like 12 or something. Sydney, what were you doing as a job career before Phone Dog? I was doing two things. I worked at a law firm, but I was also a freelance writer for Examiner.com. I covered consumer gadgets, news, and reviews. Anything on a new Motorola device for Sprint soon? Yeah, the Motorola, oh my gosh. Oh my, what's the name of that phone? Oh my goodness. Photon, yes, the Motorola Photon Q. That will be coming sometime soon. We don't have a release date. We don't have anything really solid on it yet, but we have the name's been thrown out there. Motorola Photon Q, and it will have LTE. So we're hearing also, probably a couple of more updated specs compared to the original Photon. But one of the big things is that it will have LTE support. How'd you snag this sweet job with Phone Dog? I applied. Yeah, I know. It's a new thing. It's this new thing, applying for jobs and then getting the job. Do you plan on having kids someday? No, I don't really want kids. I have nothing against kids. I just don't want kids. I've never, some women have that desire in them. They just want children, and I've never had that. I don't really want children. Are you excited about the Sony Ion that's rumored to come on AT&T? The Sony Ion. Are you talking about, okay, the Sony Xperia Ion? Let's see, 4.6-inch 1280 by 720 display, 1.5 gigahertz dual-core processor, 12 megapixel camera. Yeah, seems like a great phone. Android 2.3, I would hope that would be bumped up to Android 4.0, but, who knows. Yeah, seems like a great phone. Okay, Sydney, which is better, the Sony Mobile Bravia Engine, Super LCD, or Super AMOLED? You could get into a lot of techie talk. That sounds kind of lame, actually, but you get into a lot of technical talk about, the technology behind, those displays and what makes them run the way that, look the way they do. But I've really noticed that I think it's just personal opinion. Obviously, they all look great. I'm sorry, that was my phone. I apologize for that. Obviously, they all look great. Super LCD, you've got a very clear display. Super AMOLED, great color saturation. Sony, Bravia Engine, same thing. But, I prefer Super AMOLED because I love the color saturation. And I know some people don't. They think it's, it's way too saturated. It's not realistic. It's just kind of more like in your face. But I like that. Super LCD, the clarity is awesome, but it's kind of, I like having more rich colors. And so I've really noticed that it's just personal opinion. Techie talk sounds tacky. Okay. Yay for phones. Yes. Yay for phones. Oh, I just got a voicemail. So, this person, oh, okay, sorry, I thought this is like the same question over and over, but I just realized that my Ustream window just kept jumping around, which it does sometimes. Sydney, what made you decide to get married so early? Because you're 24 and all. I actually got married when I was 22, so, which I don't think 22 is too young for marriage, but, whatever, like, as long as you're old enough to get married. I wouldn't recommend getting married when you're, like, 18 or 19 or even 20. But why did I decide to get married? Because I found somebody I wanted to marry. And I was old enough. I'd been living on my own for a little while. He had been on his own for pretty much his whole life. And so, we loved each other and decided to get married. That's how it worked. Yeah. Um, Sydney rebelled. Is that what you were trying to say? Okay, if you have any phone questions, feel free to ask those as well. No pressure, just, Sydney, someone from Android explained that updates are delayed because of carriers. That's true, yeah, it's starting to become more clear to us now. That it's more the carriers. I mean, I think the manufacturers have something to do with it, but I think the carriers too. They just delay it, and I don't know why. I don't know if it's because, they want you to buy a new phone rather than keep your old phone. But yeah, we are starting to realize that more and more. Which new phone do you prefer and why? Well, like I said, I use Windows Phone as my for my personal phone. I like Android, but I just like Windows Phone, so I'd probably go with the Lumia 900, just because it's probably the best Windows Phone device on the market right now. But at the same time, the HTC One X, I do really like that phone. It's it's got an awesome display. Great camera, just great overall specs. On PhoneDog's official smartphone rankings, I have the One X as number one. And so it might be a tie between the One X and the Lumia 900, but just because I prefer Windows Phone, I think I'd probably go with the Lumia 900. But I will say the One X is probably the better phone. How about Titan 2? The Titan 2 display is just a little bit too big. 4.7 inches, just a little too big for me. And I love the Lumia 900 hardware. I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot of why I would like it, why I would want to get it. Sydney, if Aaron happened to leave PhoneDog, would you take his place? I don't know. That's not up to me to decide. So, which one would you choose, HTC One X or Samsung Galaxy S3? Well, like I said earlier, I love Samsung. I love TouchWiz. I like their hardware, actually. I love Super AMOLED displays. And so I would probably go with the Galaxy S3. But, the One X could hold its own. I mean, they're both very equal. I'm not going to say that one is better than the other, because I think they're both, pretty much the same in terms of, performance and features. So really, if you want me to, if you're trying to ask, which one is better, I don't think either one is really better. Personally, I like TouchWiz. I like Super AMOLED displays, so I'd probably go with the Galaxy S3. Have you met Lisa Gate in person, Sydney? I know she was a guest last week. No, I've never met her in person, which is funny because she actually lives in Dallas, and so, which I didn't know, and so I was like, oh, that's cool. We should, get lunch or something, but she's probably so busy. I don't know. I haven't asked yet, but no, I've never met her in person. Any 30-day challenges in your future? I'm not sure. Maybe Aaron and I will talk and collaborate on that. Do you think the 16-megapixel camera is a gimmick on the Titan 2? Yeah, I think to a certain extent. I mean, obviously, you want a great camera, and so, it's probably a good camera. But I don't think, I talked about this whenever the Titan 2 was first announced. I think HTC kind of just took the easy way out. Everyone wants a great camera, and they talk about the iPhone 4S, Galaxy S3, or Galaxy S2 at the time. All these great cameras, and so HTC is like, all right, let's put a good camera on here. So they just kind of slap 16 megapixels on it, and that's not really what makes a great camera. We talked about earlier, it's more about the optics, and so, yeah, I think they just kind of got lazy, and it's more of a gimmick. But still probably a good camera, just not as great as you would think. Sydney, have you been to Euless? I have. My sister used to live in Euless, actually. Would you like Nokia to release an Android device? Sure. Yeah, like the Lumia 900 with Android. Yeah, I'd love to try that. I'm going to check Facebook. And on that note, we only have a minute left. So I'll try to get some last minute questions, but one more minute and then I got to go. No questions on Facebook. There was I think they just gave up. There's some from 40 minutes ago, and I think they just gave up. They were like, screw this. I don't need this chick. Okay. Sydney, what is the most feminine designed phone currently out on the market besides the Rime? I mean, design-wise. Most feminine phone? I mean, a lot of phones are really, like, unisex. I mean, I think they could have worked for, a guy and a girl. Um, Actually, the HTC, not that this is, like, overly feminine or, like, not masculine, but it is really sleek and thin. And, if you think about, a manly phone as being, like, rugged and all that, then this is definitely not a manly phone. But really, I mean, I think all phones are kind of, whatever, if it's a guy or a girl. I like your hairstyle. Thank you. Is there such a thing as a feminine phone? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think they're all kind of... The HTC Rhyme was obviously made for females, or, like, they didn't want to say only for females, but, metrosexual, effeminate people, or females. Sydney, you have tiny ears. I guess that's good, because if I had big ears, this haircut wouldn't look that great, would it? Anyway, so that's all. Thanks, guys, for joining the show. Again, I apologize for the technical difficulties, but thanks for working with me and making it. We made it through together. We did it together, so it was fun. I guess I'll see you guys later. Don't go yet. One thing, no dog pound this Monday, because I'm going to be in Orlando for Blackberry World, and so there's not going to be a dog pound. I don't know if Aaron's going to do it or something. I'd probably not, but so no dog pound. But I'll be back for the dog pound next Monday, and then I will be back for Phone Dog Live on Friday. Because I think Blackberry World is over on Wednesday. I think Wednesday is the last day. So anyway, just a note about that. But I'll see you guys later. Thanks, guys, for joining. Bye.